Hi, I'm Bob Trask. This is our weekly reset. This is where we come together every week to make sure that every week is better than the week before and gets better every week all through the year. Consciousness, the highest level, relationships, the highest level, abundance at the highest level, health at the highest level. We do this. We'll do this together. So let's get started on today, which is one of my favorite of all subjects, trusting my heart and my gut. Trusting, because those are the centers, the homes of intuition. They're home of intuitional thinking. And there's a fine line, a fine line between intuition and thinking. And it's that line we're going to step across automatically from heart mind to intellectual mind, or from intellectual mind to heart mind. And we step across that line and we go from intellectual mind to heart mind, or heart mind to intellectual mind. But today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how heart mind, gut mind, and intellectual mind can blend together as one. And it'll make each one of us more of a whole person. So the heart mind is one that knows. The heart mind knows, because the heart mind is an intellectual, or excuse me, an intuitive mind that is connected with the wisdom of the universe, not the wisdom of your mind or your brain or your schooling, but the wisdom of the universe. That's the intuitive mind. The brain mind always thinks, and the heart mind simply knows. So did you know that our intuition is the body's most primal form of wisdom? It's that non-way of knowing that has come down to us through our ancestors, and it has saved us so many times when we were confused, or when we were in peril, or when there was something sudden that happened that we didn't know what to do, and then we went there. It saved us when our brain was still trying to figure things out. Clinical psychology offers a lot of insights into why we should trust our heart's wisdom. Today, we're going to share some of those truths. And this won't be about discarding logic, but about honoring the gut feeling, the heart feeling, that's of incredible value to us as a life guide. So let's see how the heart wisdom and gut wisdom can be our guides when we're in second guessing state, second guessing ourselves. Let's dive in. Did you know that the heart has 40,000 neurons? And you know, neurons are nerve cells, and nerve cells have these little dendrites and these little axons that reach out for them, and those are synapses. And then they go to this little gap, and then there's this little tiny zip, like a spark on a spark plug, that zips across there, and that's the neurotransmitter going across the synaptic gap, and that's how we think. That's how we think. That's how we get ideas. That's how we get creativity. That's how we get stuff. The heart, which doesn't think, it just knows, has 40,000 of those neurons. Well, the brain's got like 10 billion or 100 billion or something like that. But the heart has 40,000 of those neurons. And each one of those neurons has thousands of those little synaptic gaps. Thousands. Imagine 40,000 times 1,000. That's how much power, how much wisdom the heart has. Wow, a powerful, intelligent brain right in your heart. Now, let's talk about gut instinct. Gut instinct. And you've had kind of a gut feeling about this or a gut feeling about that. So that's your gut instinct. Well, the gut also has a brain. Well, the heart has 40,000 neurons. The gut has 100,000 neurons, each with thousands of synaptic communicators. So we're not trusting our gut or trusting our heart. First, we're going to our intellectual mind and saying, let's figure this thing out intellectually. And then if we need to pay attention to another level of consciousness or another level of wisdom, we can go there. But right now, let's just stay with our mind. Well, how did we get there? When we were little kids, 3 years old, 4 years old, we were living pretty much in our intuitive minds. We were living in our imaginations. Our imaginations are amazing, powerful, wonderful guidance systems for us. They're what lead us through life and make life interesting and exciting and changing all the time. It's amazing what that can do for us. So our imagination is linked to the 40,000 neurons of the heart and the 100,000 neurons of the gut, and it's filled with imagination. And here's the way that works. The head brain is a computer. And like your own computer, it's constantly processing information, has no feelings. So all of its choices and all of its decisions are made never considering human feelings or senses or emotion. For example, if you're getting in your car and you say, well, I'm going to go to the store and buy some things, and I know what I need, and I've got it, I'm going to apply those right away. So I need to go get those things. And you get in your car and you start the car and you put it in gear and you start to back up, and you see a cat dart across the back of the car. Your brain mind says, I'm going to the store. I need to get this and this and this and come home and cook it or fix it or whatever I'm going to do. But your heart mind and your gut mind says, there's a cat back there. So do you just blindly go ahead? No, you don't. You stop and you maybe even get out and check and make sure that cat's not there, because your intellectual mind is secondary at that point. So that intuitive mind is always alive and it's always there to guide you. But today we want to learn how to think, not just in our brain mind, but to pay attention, to be conscious of those other minds. So it's really a simple example, but life is often not that simple. For example, what if you came upon a car wreck and you were the only one there, and we're maybe going to be the only one there for a while, and there are multiple injuries? What would you know what to do? Would you know what to do? I mean, you see people that are bleeding, you see people that are unconscious, you see all kinds of things. There are children that are crying. What are you going to do? If you use your brain mind, unless you've had a lot of emergency medical training, you're going to be pretty lost. Let me tell you, that example that I'm bringing up reminds me that it actually happened to me. I was 24 years old, and I was having dinner with some friends at their house, and we were right next to a highway going through Oregon, and the highway was just in front of the house. And it wasn't like today there was freeways. That was a long time ago. That may still be a 2-lane blacktop for all I know, but it was just a 2-lane blacktop road. And it was softly raining, and we were sitting having dinner, and I heard this huge bash, crash, bang. And I got up and went to the window, and there were two cars, and they'd hit head on and then screwed around sideways to each other. And there was smoke coming out from under the hoods, but it was a mess. So I just went to the door and went out. Now, I remember so clearly, as though it were yesterday, going out to those cars. As I was going along the walk through the yard out to the road, my legs felt like they were lead. I was so terrified, I was almost paralyzed. But I would not stop. And I kept going. And incidentally, the people in the house, we'll talk about that in just a minute. The other people in the house, there were 3 other adults in the house. They never left the house. So I went out to those 2 cars, and there were multiple injuries, and there was people were dying or people were dead, and there were people bleeding and people unconscious, and it was a real mess. Now, if I'd known what I know now, I could have saved some more lives, but I didn't know what I know now. though I had taken a first aid class and I knew about cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which back then was just called chest compressions. It wasn't developed as cardiopulmonary resuscitation and so oh, I take that back. Now that I remember back, I didn't even know about cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I just knew about mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. That's all. I'd taken classes on on artificial resuscitation, but that cardiopulmonary resuscitation wasn't a thing. Even chest compressions, what we then later knew, wasn't a thing. So anyway, I was working on these people and and going back and forth, and I was alone there for over an hour. Nobody came for over an hour, and um, several people died that wouldn't have died if I'd known what I know now, but I didn't know, and I saved a few lives. And I saved a few lives just by following my gut instinct. I mean, this wonderful knowingness that is the universal intelligence and wisdom flowing into me, that I just knew what to do here and I knew what to do there, and I didn't know. And I won't go into the gory details of what happened, but it was hugely changing for me and for my life. It put me on a different path than I'd been on before. But um, there was a little boy that I was doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on, and he did pass. Um, anyway, if I had just been using my brain mind, if I had just been in my brain mind, I would have been like those three other adults in the house. I would have been paralyzed because the brain mind doesn't have an answer for what you should do next or first. The brain mind doesn't, my mind didn't know, my brain didn't know. Now, the same thing, I'm going to change this a little bit. The same thing goes on daily in relationships. People who live in their brains have a hard time connecting with feeling. And yet we're human beings. We're feeling beings. We're eternal spiritual beings. We're flowing through this universe as basically emotional beings. Isn't it true that you're mostly emotional? If somebody insults you, do you go into your brain, well, no, let's see, I suppose that was an insult. No, you go, oh, ouch, that hurt. We are emotional beings. We're sensitive beings. We're sentient beings. And and when we don't use our full emotional, mental, heart, gut, feelings all in balance, then relationships can often become a train wreck. And it happens particularly in marriage. Now, I've known two organizations that I worked with that were both brain organized. And so they didn't take care of the people that were there. And they were, incidentally, they were both churches, and they didn't care about the congregation. The board of directors didn't care about the congregation or heart mind or gut mind. They cared only focus was on what they thought they should be doing. And they made huge mistakes, constant huge mistakes. And they couldn't get past that because they couldn't get out of their brains, they couldn't get out of their head minds and feel what the congregation wanted, what people wanted, what truth was. They had to be willing to break the rules. They had to be able to stop trying to just figure it out and go with their heart, go with their gut, go with people. Because there were train wrecks there, and because they didn't go with their hearts, and there's train wrecks in relationships all the time because of that. I I know of a person who has gone through this exact same thing and eventually learned by it not to go into that place. Eventually learned by it that it doesn't work to just be in your head and mind. Now uses the gut and the heart to help make critical decisions, particularly when it's involved, when people are involved, particularly when we're talking about people, because people aren't operating in relationship to relationship. That's not a brain thing. Relationship to relationship, that's heart. Like you're watching me right now and you're hearing my words, but my words are really not so important. A test was done many, many years ago with college students to find out how much they actually get, how much information, how much wisdom, how much they actually get when somebody's speaking to them. They found out that that like a tiny, tiny amount is from the words. A greater amount is from the body language or the or the or that, but the greatest amount is tone of voice. Tone of voice. So what is that? That's my heart reaching your heart. That's my heart talking to your heart. And I'm using words, but I could be singing a song. I could be just humming a melody. But the tone of my voice is what's really getting this across to you, so you can hear what I'm really talking about. And here's a few reasons why we should just start trusting our heart and our gut mind. Number one, it's that the heart mind and the gut mind are faster. Intuition is faster than conscious thought. And when we're in a jam, speed can be really important. Psychologists tell us that our intuition operates on a level that's much faster than conscious thought. Number two, the gut can sense danger before the brain sees it. Psychologists tell us that our gut messages come from our ancestors' primal survival instincts. They're primal survival instincts. Can you imagine that you're the mom and you got two little babies, little kids, and maybe you guys are living in a cave and you got a little fire growing, and the babies are playing along on a rug or something, and you suddenly get a sense that something's wrong. Because at that point, our mind brains weren't developed that far. What was developed was our intuition, our instincts. We were more animalistic in that sense. Now, if you have a pet or you've had a pet, you know what I'm talking about. They have this intuition. We have cats and two cats, and one of those cats thinks I'm her father. Go figure. And she follows me everywhere, and I can't go behind a closed door. She sits outside and meows until I open the door. And when I'm driving up the street, before I even open the garage door, she runs out because she knows I'm coming. How does she know that? These animals have that that instinct, that intuition. And we did too. And our ancestors relied on those instincts to sense predators and other dangers before they could see them. So that's number two. That the gut instinct, that heart instinct senses dangers before we can even see them. Number three, intuition leads us to make better decisions. University of Amsterdam did an interesting study. The researchers found that individuals who relied on intuition sometimes made better decisions than those who relied solely on analytical thinking. And so they developed this complex test. It was a task, and it was really complex, and it was almost impossible to figure it out because 4 and 4 didn't make 8 in this crazy, wonderful test. And it was really difficult to process consciously. And they found out that the participants who trusted their gut instinct and their heart instincts were far more likely to make the correct choices. Now, this isn't to say that we should abandon logical thinking. Oh man, no. I mean, when I was a young author, 25 years old, and living in San Francisco and working as a singer, but I was also writing. Um, I I I read a book. I think it was called Composition by Logic, and I was trying to learn how to write. And I learned from that book how important logic was. That I mean, I learned a little bit more about writing, but I really learned about logic and how vital logic is in our lives. And and our logic is really, really powerful, really important. But that that story that I told you and talking about participants in this test that trusted their gut instincts were more likely to make correct choices. What I'm saying is that that highlights the importance of bringing our intuition into our decision-making process. And our intuition, as I said, plays this enormous role in our personal relationships. It helps us sense where a relationship's headed, and it sees the red flags coming up even before we think they're red flags. Even lets us know when we're not doing our part. I've counseled a lot of married couples, and it's fairly common that the wife will say, "I just know that this or that's going on." And he said, that's not going on." She said, "It is going on, and I know it." And eventually he'll admit it. And I'm thinking, she didn't have any proof of that. She had no evidence of that, but she knew it. And that's number 3. Number 4, trusting heart and gut instinct and intuition actually boosts our self-confidence. Sometimes it tells us just the right thing to do, and then we do it. And if we don't analyze it and then make a stupid decision just from our brains, if we use our intuition and our instinct, then we'll make the right decision most of the time. Learning to trust our gut instinct, learning to trust our intuition. Wow. We discover that we have a deep wisdom and intellectual vacancy, but a deep knowingness. We feel the wisdom of the entire universe coming into us. And with that great wisdom, then in this particular situation, filtering that with logic, we can make really a sound decision. So heart and gut wisdom is the seed of creativity. Think about the last time you had a light bulb moment, something, a great idea that you had. And if you followed it, something really great happened. And if you didn't follow it, maybe you look back and say, "Gee, I wish I had." Paulo Coelho says, "Don't allow your mind to tell your heart what to do. The mind gives up far too easily." Imagination goes hand in hand with intuition, doesn't it? The two are the source of creativity. The great genius Einstein, one of my heroes, worked intuitively. He worked intuitively and expressed himself logically. For him, discovery did not come from logic or mathematics. He said imagination meant more to him than his ability to absorb knowledge. Imagination meant more to him than his ability to absorb knowledge. And he went on to say, all great achievements in science must start with intuitive knowledge. I believe in intuition, he said, and inspiration. I feel certain I am right when not knowing the reason. He said imagination is more important than knowledge. The theory of relativity, that great theory of relativity that changed science, that changed physics, that was the great, great aha of the century. The theory of relativity occurred to me by intuition. So our intuition is uniquely ours, isn't it? We are unique. Nobody else is like us. And our intuition and our instincts are the same. That's because We were brought here as creators to create. We were brought here to make a difference. We were brought here to follow with all of us, with our intellectual mind, with our heart mind, with our gut mind, to be a complete person, to use all of us to guide our lives. And there's no one else ever, ever, ever going to have your intuition, because you see reality through a lens I can't see through. That's yours. I can't see through your lens. Bless you. But you can communicate with me through your heart, through that real intuitive communication, and I can get you. I can get where you're going. That's your guiding light. It's a guiding force that molds you. Trust it. Listen to it and honor it. Your intuition is one of your most powerful tools for navigating through life. It's your internal compass. I can tell you as an ex-sea captain, your compass. I mean, I imagine being at sea in my compass, and I'm looking at my compass and I'm saying, I don't know if that's right. I think we'll go over here instead. Yeah, I'd have been in big trouble. Trust your compass. Trust it. It's always pointing you in the right direction. So the next time you're stuck in a creative rut, take a step back and listen to your gut, listen to your heart. And it might just surprise you with the solution you've been searching for. Now we'll go back to Albert Einstein to finish our talk today. Back to Al. Al. He said, whatever you do, I take this back, excuse me. This is Goethe. Goethe said, whatever you do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. Isn't that beautiful? Whatever you do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. Beautiful. Thank you, Goethe. Einstein, to finalize our talk today, said, please live life to the fullest. This is Al Einstein talking to us. You have to color outside the lines once in a while if you want to make your life a masterpiece. Laugh some every day. Keep growing. Keep dreaming. Keep following your heart. The important thing is to never stop questioning. Thank you, Albert Einstein. And thank you, my dear friend, for being with me today. I hope that this has touched a part of you and that you're going to go forward now and feel, all of you, the magnificent wisdom of your gut and your heart and your brain working together in harmony as a team rather than only one player on the basketball court. Thank you for being with me. If this has been good for you, will you go to my website, bobtrask.com, and leave a donation, please, so that Mary and I can continue to expand our good work in the world, touching more and more and more lives. And you can help us touch more lives if you have a Facebook account. When you go to Facebook, you'll see you'll either see this talk, or you can go to my page and find this talk and then share it with all your friends. And that way we can spread the word around the world that we are on the path of enlightenment. We can make the world a better place for our children and grandchildren. Thanks. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me.